This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Podcast, where we give respect and voice to people with special needs. I'm your host, Daniel Smrokowski, and today we've got a truly empowering episode for you. Joining us it is two guests, Caleb Prewitt, a Guinness World Record Holder as the most prolific Down syndrome triathlete in Reno. At just 18 years old, Caleb has completed 47 triathlons, 125 races, and 5 half marathons. And he proudly serves as a Planet Fitness and USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador. You may have seen him in the Chicago Marathon ads that just took place. Also, joining him is his mom, Karen Prewitt, who has been by Caleb's side every step of the way and is part of the inspiring Caleb's crew. Together, they're proving that abilities are greater than disabilities. You can find the show notes and access over 17 years, over 800 podcast episodes at specialchronicles.com. Stay tuned as we hear Caleb's story, Karen's perspective, and how they're making an impact through sports, inclusion, and advocacy. Welcome to the Special Chronicles. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Caleb and Karen finally on Special Chronicles Podcast. Oh, wait, let's, there we go. Welcome.
Hey, Daniel. So thanks for having us. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, I know. It's finally, I was trying to, in putting the show notes together, I was trying to remember when we first got connected, because we reconnected just recently, just a couple of months ago at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and I was trying to because I've been following you guys on Insta. We've been connected on Instagram for quite a few years, but do you guys remember when
USA Games? Maybe
it might have been USA Games in Orlando? That sounds right. There's a lot of events that I've been to over the. I've been an athlete in Special Olympics for 20 years and podcasting now 17 years. So there's a lot of events. But yeah, that sounds right. So for our listeners, I mentioned in the introduction that Caleb, you have done 46 triathlons at the age of 18 and 123 races and 5 half marathons. And I'm sure of our listeners, I know there were some ads for the Chicago Marathon that are already up as you are driving in and out of the airport. And I was trying to look to see if I saw you on there, but why don't we begin and have you both introduce yourselves and Karen, maybe you could share a little bit of Caleb's story when he was born and first diagnosed with Down syndrome.
Sure. Yourself.
I was 8.
Okay, tell everybody your name.
Okay, I'm Caleb.
This is Caleb, and how old are you now?
I'm 18.
18. So Caleb turned 18 in March. So it's hard for me to believe, as his mom, that it's been 18 years. And, a little bit of excitement in his journey. speaking of when he was born, we didn't know that he would have Down syndrome prior to his birth. And so that was a surprise. Caleb was born 18 years after his big sister. So that was also a surprise. So, older parents and, then they come in and tell us that, oh, your baby has Down syndrome. Well, we were taken aback, but not for too long. We adjusted and we actually got connected pretty quickly with a lot of the local organizations in town, which was super helpful. And to any of the younger parents who are out there in the audience listening, highly recommended that you get connected early because, as your parents can probably attest, and parents of all people with special needs, having that community around you to help answer questions and help guide you in your journey, it's so helpful. There's nothing like it. But he was born in 2007. There wasn't a whole lot of social media going on back then. So really it was, meeting other parents face to face and having little outings, once a month. And those are super fun. Met a lot of people. And then, I think when he was 3, we got an email. Would he be interested in doing a new program through Special Olympics called the Young Athletes Program?
Yeah.
And, it was new. It was new in Florida anyway. I don't know if it was new around the country or not, but we said, sure, let's try it. The goal was to prepare the children to be Special Olympic athletes. So by the time they turned 8, and they could do sports, that they had the skills to be able to jump right into the sports. So they learned the basic skills of, how to run correctly, how to jump, how to walk on a balance beam, how to bat a ball, and all those things, and the best thing that we about this program was that it was inclusive. So they had typical peers, typical other kids, whether it was siblings or neighborhood friends or whoever. Sorry, there's a bug. Whoever it was, be helpers and be buddies for our kids and to help teach them those skills. So that was our start with Special Olympics. Fast forward to when he was 8, and he did jump right into Special Olympics. I think he started with golf and what else? Swimming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, swimming and running.
Swimming and running, yeah. So we started off with 3 sports right off the bat. Have been a big fan ever since. He went to USA Games in 2022, and it was held down here in Orlando. And what was the sport that you did?
Okay, this sport is triathlon.
Triathlon. You did another one too. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah,
Open water swim. Open water swim. He got a silver medal in open water swim at the games, and unfortunately got sick on the triathlon, so he couldn't finish the triathlon. But it was a great experience. I'm sure having been a part of the USA Games, that it's kind of be overwhelming a little bit. There's so many athletes and so many people. It's wonderful, but it can be a lot, for people. But a great experience. And then, coming up again next year in Minnesota, I believe.
In June 2026.
Yeah.
And then
will you be a part of that?
I can't officially announce anything right now on the podcast. Still going through some contracts, but stay for those listening, keep following this podcast because we'll announce it hopefully beginning of 2026. Stay tuned. And a friend of mine who's an athlete, Lido in Ohio, was just announced that the 2030 USA Games will be in Cleveland.
Oh, okay. Haven't heard that yet. That's exciting, though.
I think it might be breaking news right now. That will. Okay. I'm listening to this. Anyways, I want to before we continue on to your story, Caleb, I want to comment on just a few things. One, in 2007, like that was the year before I started podcasting, and yes, there wasn't a lot of social media. Back in the day, like I would even use Skype to record this podcast back in those days. But even I'm a little bit older than you, Caleb, and so just a little bit older. And so when I was born, the same thing. My parents didn't, had to use a lot of that in-person, face-to-face connections with other parents and other families. And then, I'm glad that you highlighted the Young Athletes Program for Special Olympics, because when I was in Berlin at the World Games, we volunteered at the Young Athletes event, and I think I might have had another event, but yeah, definitely in Berlin. Then I wanted to just, so it's interesting that we both, even though we're different ages, that pre-social media interacting with other families and other people is a similar part of both of our stories. And then, just like you, I used to swim in Special Olympics. I don't anymore since the pandemic. I didn't go back. And then I want to comment on your triathlon and open water swimming. So open water swimming, there was a Special Olympics athlete, an employee at Special Olympics International, Custer Edwards, who's from he's from Trinidad and Tobago, and he I don't know if you guys have met Custer before, but he I think I want to say he started open water swimming in Special Olympics, or has some long history with that particular sport. And then the triathlon, there was a documentary film called All You Hear Is Noise that I've been a story consultant on that film, on because they had an intellectual disability advisory team that gave them input on the film. And it follows the USA the Special Olympics USA triathlon team that went to the Abu Dhabi World Games in 2019. And it was a triathlon team, and one of the three Special Olympics athletes featured in that film is an athlete in New York. And his name, I should know his name. I'm blanking on his name. He was on this podcast too, but he's even featured on the cover image for the film. I'm blanking on this, but anyways, he competed in triathlon at the World Games, and then at the USA Games in Orlando, he became an official, and so he was helping to be the person between the athlete and the other officials and staff, and like to be that person. Yeah. So I'm blanking on his name, but that's a neat connection with that sport. Moving right along, we're gonna come back to the USA Triathlon Foundation campaign at the Chicago Marathon. So we'll leave our listeners on the edge of those seats to keep listening to this podcast. But Caleb and Karen, how does Caleb got started in triathlons and running, and talk a little bit about, Caleb, your journey in completing now at the time of this podcast recording 46 triathlons, 123 races at just 18 years old. How did you get started, and tell us a little bit about the journey?
How we got started?
Yeah. It's only a bike camp. We're having my dad.
Yeah, we went to, and it was during the pandemic. And, as you know, there wasn't a whole lot going on in events. And so we found something down in Orlando. And it was an in-person bike camp. It was through the Down Syndrome Foundation of Florida. They were holding a camp to teach younger kids how to ride a bike, kids with IDD, and mostly Down syndrome and autism. And we said, what the heck, let's try it. And so we got Caleb a bike, which was bikes were hard to find during the pandemic because, everybody wanted to do something outside. So they were buying bikes. But we finally found him a bike. We got down to bike camp, and he learned how to ride a bike. It wasn't in that 1 week time, but it was in about a month. He learned how to ride a bike. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he rode circles and circles and circles around the park, and that was fabulous. And then another thing we started during the pandemic was Special Olympics did a Couch to 5K running program. And so that was if any of you are familiar with Couch to 5K, you start with just, running up maybe 100 yards, running for a minute, and however long you can run in a minute. And then walking, and then running, and then walking. And so you progress every week. It's a little bit more and a little bit more. And the goal at the end of the 10 weeks is to do a 5K. So we set out the fall of 2020, and we said, let's try and plan to do the Thanksgiving 5K in town. And did you do it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was his very first 5K. Program worked. Thank you, Special Olympics, again. So he knew how to ride a bike. He knew how to run. He did know how to swim, but not long lengths. So then Special Olympics said in the beginning of 2021, let's open up triathlon to the whole state. Before that, it was just in Orlando. So we asked Caleb if he wanted to try and do triathlon. And what did you say?
Yeah, I say whatever I did.
Yeah, he said, let's try it. And so we started off with training camp down in Orlando. We would go down there once a month and work with the other athletes, work with the other buddies. And so he ended up doing his very first triathlon in the spring of 2021. So he's done all the 47 triathlons from that point until today. So it's been a pretty busy 4 years for all of us, racing sometimes every weekend, but we love it. We're addicted to it, I think. We love training.
Your whole family, your daughter and husband?
Oh no, my husband is he's our, for lack of a better term, our Sherpa. So he pretty much helps us with all the gear. He gets the bikes ready for us. He, has everything ready. Takes us here and there, which we're very thankful for. My daughter now, our daughter is grown and gone. She's got her own family now, so she is not an athlete, but she's an artist. So she has her own thing going on. But Philip's nieces now are showing an interest in doing some running and some swimming. So we'll see where that goes.
Awesome. I was at the question I was going to ask is I've never been into running, but I also compete in basketball in Special Olympics, which is starting the middle of October, and then we just got done with our bocce ball season. But a question I was going to ask is, I've never, like, my mom and my sisters have been into running, but if there's an athlete, and particularly I'm asking for myself, but I'm sure all listeners as well, who is not into running, what advice will you both have to get started in running? Is this, whether it's not an official couch to 5K, even if you make up your own couch to 5K, what's, I mean, that sounds like a perfect advice, but what advice would you have for someone who has not been into running in the past, but as a way to get more in fit to pick that up?
Sure. And movement is so important, as we've come to find over these last 4 years. And I've been a runner my whole life, so I was thrilled that Caleb showed an interest in running. The Couch to 5K really, Special Olympics doesn't own it. You can Google it and you can find, a variety of Couch to 5K programs. Pretty much start off with a run walk. So you run for, like I said, 100 yards. For us, it was down to the end of the street and back. And gradually we lengthen that. So like the next day we would do twice that. So you want to build up slowly and build your walks as well slowly. So you have, your body has some time to adjust to the running. Make sure you have good shoes. Number one, that would be my advice as a runner. Make sure you have running shoes. You can go to a lot of different footwear stores or running stores, and they will help you find a doctor or a place where you can get your feet fitted with the proper shoes. That's critical. And then make sure you're doing stretching and warming up and cooling down and all that stuff. But you want to start slowly. And, I think also it's important to have a goal, like we, set the goal as the 5K for Caleb. What goal do you want to achieve? Do you want to do a fun run, a mile fun run? We have a fun Santa run. Remember that was the Santa run that Daddy did with us? Yeah. And it's just a mile, but to say you run a mile when you've never been a runner, that's quite an accomplishment. So
yeah, awesome.
That would be my advice.
Awesome. I love that. Caleb, do you have any favorite race memories, including your half marathons? Any favorite memories?
What's your favorite race? You did.
Okay. And my favorite race would be swimming.
Yeah, but the open water swim.
Oh yeah.
At USA Game. Saying it's an open water swim at USA Game. Yeah.
Awesome. I was there as a Southern Tribal Global Messenger in Orlando, but I don't think we made it over to the triathlon or the open water swimming because my schedule was very, very busy.
Oh yeah, I bet. Plus it was so spread out.
It was, yeah. So hopefully, are you guys going to the next USA Games in Minnesota?
Well, unfortunately, they're not offering triathlon as a sport, nor open water swim. So we were sad to hear that. Maybe in 2030, when it's in, you said Ohio?
Yeah, in Ohio, in Cleveland.
Yeah, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
But luckily, living in Florida, there's a lot of opportunities for triathlon, just as a community event. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, my aunt and uncle live in Minnesota in the Twin Cities, so I'm hoping I can get them to volunteer. Karen, so as Caleb, you just shared one of your favorite memories was the open water swimming in Orlando at the USA Games. Karen, do you have a favorite memory of one of Caleb's favorite races? The
one where he got his Guinness World Record. Personally, that was my favorite because what an accomplishment to have your child earn a Guinness World Record. And I ran alongside him and 2 other friends ran alongside with us. So that was pretty special that we all got to cross the line together, supporting Caleb. And that was a local race here in town. It supports breast cancer research, which was important to us because Caleb's grandmother had breast cancer.
Yeah,
so it was,
my grandmother too.
it was a lot of good connections. It was a town race. A lot of people that we knew were out there watching and cheering for us. So it's very wonderful. And, meant a lot to both of us, I think.
Awesome. And that's a good. It's as if we had show notes for this podcast, because that's a good transition to the next poet. First, I'll start with you, Karen, and then I'll go to you, Caleb. Karen, can you tell our listeners what was the process of how Caleb even got to become a Guinness World Record holder? What the organization or the committee who gave him this Guinness World Record? What was the process of how they even knew of Caleb doing this race? And then Caleb, you can share how it feels to be recognized as a Guinness World Record holder, because I think you're probably the first guest on this podcast to be a Guinness World Record holder. I've had Emmy winners and actors and actresses but yeah, first Guinness World Record holder on this podcast. Karen, what was that process like of how he even got this, and then Caleb followed that up with how it feels to be a Guinness World Record holder?
Yeah, it was a lengthy process. It was just us doing some research to figure out that if he finished the race, which he did, would be the youngest person with Down syndrome to complete a half a marathon. And he was 16. And I don't know, 300 days, or I can't remember exactly. It says it on his world record plaque, but 16 and something days old. And so we had to submit all this documentation that it was a certified distance, that we had witnesses, that we had to send in the proof of his time, and just a lot of other stuff, send photos. And it took almost, I think 9 months for them to approve the record. So that in itself took a long time. But when we finally got the news, which I think was almost a year later, it was pretty thrilling, right? When we got it in the mail. And do you remember opening the package and it was your Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah, I know.
So how does that make you feel?
It's very good.
Yeah, it's very special. It's got a special place in his bedroom.
Awesome.
Hopefully we'll have some more to come to hang around it.
Awesome. So I think you shared it on Instagram. So when the week that this podcast airs, I'll try to share some of those on our Special Chronicles story. So for those of you that are listening to this podcast, follow specialchronicles.com to follow us on Instagram, and we'll try to share. We'll let you know how you can follow Caleb on social media. But moving right along, and just because we're in about the half hour part of the program today, a quick note to let you know that support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd's Energy First program, the nation's first energy efficiency education program taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at ComEd at specialchronicles.com/ConMed. Specialchronicles.com/ConMed. So I didn't pre-read this script, so I printed it out. It's in the studio, and I just didn't pre-read it ahead of time. So, with that, moving right along, your role and as a Planet Fitness and USA Triathlon Fitness ambassador, because I want to just jump back quickly to the beginning when we reconnected at the airport. I was working as one of the first original. I don't know if I'm. Some people don't like me to use the word original, but I'm going to say it. I'm one of the OG Special Olympics athletes that are employed at United Airlines, and so that's when you saw me. Which I think the picture for this episode might be the picture that we took at the airport. And so, but right before you guys boarded, which I let you guys pre-board, but right before you guys boarded the plane, I went down and talked with the pilots. I talked with the captain, and I showed them your Instagram page, Caleb. And so I'm assuming that they made an announcement during your flight.
They did. They let us go into the cockpit. Remember that? And we got to sit at the co-pilot seat, whatever, the one on the right-hand side.
The first officer.
Shoot this little thing that made all these sound effects. I don't know what that was, but that was pretty cool. And flip some switches, and hopefully the plane the plane made it, so hopefully it didn't bring anything. About 10 minutes into the flight, the pilot, acknowledged that we had a Guinness Book of World Record holder on the plane, and so Caleb Prewitt, and it was wonderful. So thanks to you, Daniel, for all that. That was really a very special moment for us all.
Awesome. Yeah. It's always neat to be able to talk with our pilots, and I know when I think it was, when my girlfriend and I were coming back from one of our, she has some family in Colorado, and so when we were coming back a few years ago from one of our trips, we had a whole world to ourselves, and my mom always wants me to tell the crew about being a service ambassador at United Airlines, and they told, similar to like what happened to you, Caleb, the flight attendants made an announcement on the flight that my girlfriend and I were on, and even some people across the aisle, they waved over.
It's very special. It's just
is.
And it's great awareness, it's great awareness for the fact that people with disabilities, with intellectual disabilities, are out there living their best life.
It is. Whether it's you, Caleb, being a Guinness World Record holder and winning all these races, or it's somebody like myself working for a major airline. That's something that a lot growing up, that like at least for me, and I'm sure Caleb, you and Karen, you can relate to this too. A lot of our special ed teachers, growing up, like when I was growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, was not something that a lot of our special ed teachers and case managers and therapists said that we would be able to either work for a major airline or be a Guinness World Record holder and do all this. And so it's when pilots, when we're on a flight and they recognize this, it goes a long ways. It's not just patting ourselves on the back, but it gives other families and other people in the community, I think, hope.
And I think it also raises the bar for just the general public as far as what their expectations are for our community. We can do a lot. We can do much more than what was, and for Caleb's instance, not a lot of high expectations when he was born. And even today, unfortunately, people when they get a Down syndrome diagnosis prenatally are encouraged to look at doing, quote unquote options, which it's heartbreaking, because Caleb's living his best life, and I know you are too. So,
Yeah.
there's so much that, we can do together.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Caleb, your role as an ambassador. Can you both, Caleb and Karen, can you both tell us about this role that Caleb has as a Planet Fitness and a USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador? What does this role mean to you, Caleb, and to you, Karen, for Caleb to have this, both of these ambassador roles, and then the opportunities to inspire other athletes, other Special Olympics athletes that are tuning in, other Special Olympics athletes with intellectual disabilities to have an ambassador role like this. So, what can you tell us about what is this Planet Fitness and USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador, and what this role means to you, and then a little bit about how the opportunities inspire other athletes?
Well, the first one that Caleb was asked to do was the USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador role, and that came about. You remember when that came about? That was pretty early on after he started doing triathlon. I think it was 2022. And so basically, he represents the foundation. The foundation has 3 pillars, which is people with disabilities, Paralympics, which includes, people with limb differences, those with vision loss, those with hearing loss, etc. And then youth and young adults, and then the high performance roles, which is the group that's headed towards the Olympics. They're training for, they're the really good ones. So, those 3 pillars that they fundraise for. And so Caleb's role is really to what you do when we go to events. You do sit behind a table. Remember that big wheel that people spin? They get prizes.
Yeah.
So we've got a wheel, and if people spin and they land on a certain thing, they can get a prize. But they can also have an opportunity to donate at the booth as well. And so that's, getting donations is a big part of that role in particular. And then last summer, Caleb's been going to Planet Fitness since before the pandemic, I think. 2019, maybe 2020. Right around the pandemic, we started going to Planet Fitness, and they reached out and said, "Hey, would he like to be an ambassador for Planet Fitness?" And what you said?
Okay. So prepare for your mom
Yep.
and your weights and your bikes. About Charmaine also work running.
Yeah, and we show other people that you and other people with disabilities can work out at the gym just like anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got Pepe's hat.
Yeah,
And
they sent him some gear, of
you
course.
got Pepe's shirts
Sure.
and you got tickets.
Yeah. And he's got a black card.
And
So he can go to any Planet Fitness in the States, I think, or around the world. We haven't tried around the world. We have tried it. But basically his role with that is, to help promote Planet Fitness on social media. He's supposed to post X amount of times throughout the year that, he works out at Planet Fitness, which we just did today, didn't we? What did we do today at the gym?
Okay, today's summer, weights and bike.
Weights and bike. So today we did the weights, and we did some indoor bike. But what did we do yesterday? We did treadmill.
Yeah, it's summer we're running.
Treadmill, because it's still hot here in Florida. I don't know what's it like up there in Chicago now.
Right now it is, well, right now it's 66. The high has been 74 degrees. It's supposed to be 80, 82 degrees this weekend.
Okay.
Um,
So, but
oh
I
yeah,
mean, it was almost 100 here,
yeah,
today. So
yeah, yeah,
it's so we run on the treadmill during the week for our short runs,
yeah.
which was 4 miles yesterday. But then he's got the 22, 20, all these miles leading up to the marathon. Um, and that, will be 26.2 will be his biggest run ever. And
Yeah.
then who knows after that? We'll have to see.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We're gonna come back to the Chicago Marathon in a moment, but
Okay.
can you because this episode is airing the day after, but can you remind us and our listeners when is the Chicago Marathon, and are you, Caleb, going to be running in the Chicago Marathon?
You remember what date? We have a big calendar in the kitchen, and it's circled the date. What's the date?
Today's 22nd.
October what?
October 12th.
October 12th.
October 12th.
October 12th, Chicago Marathon 2025.
Awesome. I know we in Special Olympics Illinois has a team of athletes and staff that are running. Usually I'm home just watching it on TV, but I'll have to, since you guys are gonna be there, and I've got some other friends that are gonna be there too. I'll have to maybe that Sunday, October 12th, I'll have to try to, because I live in the west suburbs of Chicago, so I'll have to try to take the train down and see if we can try to meet up again in person. But yeah, we can talk about that off air. Moving right along, Karen, for your perspective, can you, and you shared a little bit earlier, but can you share a little bit about your family's journey behind supporting Caleb's racing? For those of you, if you just listening to the audio podcast, go check out the video on YouTube, specialchronicles.com, and then click on YouTube, and you see Caleb's crew. That might even be the title of this episode. I'm still trying to play around / sometimes use ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot to help to write some of this. Anyways, can you share a little bit about your family's journey behind supporting Caleb's races? How did Caleb's crew get started, and what that means?
Oh gosh, so Caleb's crew was really, for those of you who are family members of children with Down syndrome, a lot of you are familiar with the Buddy Walk. There's Buddy Walks across the country. Most of them partner with the National Down Syndrome Society, and it's a fundraiser / awareness raising event. And walks can happen. They can be a mile long, they can be 5K, they can be a jog around the park, but really, like I said, the goal is to raise awareness. And so when Caleb was little, we had our Buddy Walk team, and it was called Caleb's Crew, because we had a bunch of friends that came out, and we did special shirts, and they said Caleb's Crew, and there's a big smiley face. And so that's kind of always been our thing. Caleb's such a smiley kid. And it just, Caleb's Crew, just as social media became bigger and bigger and a more important part of sharing his story, we felt like we wanted to say bigger than just Caleb Prewitt. We wanted to make it Caleb and his crew, all those people who support him, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, platform it is. And so pretty much our handle for all social media is Caleb's Crew. So
Awesome.
Look for us. That's what we are.
Awesome.
And we sure appreciate everybody who, supports him and
awesome.
sends us well wishes.
Awesome. And for this episode, if you are listening in the show notes on specialchronicles.com or wherever you get podcasts, we'll make sure to put the Caleb's Crew social media handle so you guys all can know how to find and follow Caleb's Crew on social media. I am not on TikTok. I don't understand it, and so if there's some young listener,
it's a lot. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, if there's some young listener out there that wants to show me how to do that, maybe I'll figure it out. Moving on, can you, Karen, share advice for other? Because that's something I've heard from other parents that have listened to this podcast, that they love it when younger families and younger parents listening to these podcasts and these stories to give them hope, to give them encouragement. And so, do you have advice for other parents raising children with Down syndrome? And then follow that up with the importance of inclusion in sports and beyond. I know Special Olympics with the inclusion revolution is a big part of the Special Olympics movement, is about inclusion in sports and beyond. And so, do you have advice for other parents raising children with Down syndrome? And then follow that up with importance of inclusion in sports and beyond.
Sure, I think for parents, especially for parents of younger kids, keep your expectations high for your child. Try to find people and organizations who will support you in your child's journey, whether it's a disability organ or, in Caleb's instance, he's a member of 4 running clubs, and they all support him in different ways. But mostly it's that sense of community that we were looking for when he was little. We wanted it not just for the disability community, but for the greater community, because, someday Dad and I might not be here. And so he's going to need support from a lot of different areas. Plus, just for him living his life to the fullest. We want him to be out and enjoying community just like you do, at work. With you're out there in O'Hare, which is busy. And, we want that for him too. We want him to be employed and accepted. And, I think for parents of little ones, start with what was really important for us in the beginning was we wrote a vision statement for Caleb. Like, what do we see him doing 5 years from now? What do we see him doing 10 years from now? And that really helped guide us in, getting his journey. Like, what would we need to get from A to B? Say we wanted him to be, I don't know. Part of our goals for him was to be a good friend and to have friends, to have a relationship and to support his faith, which we get from church. And then just to be a productive member of society, whether it's working or volunteering or just out there in the community. But how do we get from here to there? So whether it's, like I said, whether it's organizations that are helping you or just family and friends, whatever, that circle of support, I think, is very important in the beginning. And then, let your child kind of take it from there. His sister, like I said, is not an athlete. That was not her thing. She's more of an artist. So, we steer her in the artistic world and Caleb in the athletic world. And, they're both happy and they both like different things.
Awesome. I love that. Moving on, the
importance of sports and inclusion. Yeah. So like you said, the whole unified sports through Special Olympics and how that has exploded. I was talking with Sherry Wheelock, who's the CEO down here in Florida of our Special Olympics. And, gosh, this was almost 10 years ago now. And I told her, I thought the biggest growth that they were going to get from Special Olympics was going to be unified partners, because parents want their kids to be included in things, and sports is certainly one of them. And so there has been a huge growth in unified sports. I think you can see it in almost all of our sports down here in Florida, at least.
Yeah.
And just from that, springboard into community sports. So again, what we've done with Caleb is started with Special Olympics, but now we're doing just regular running events. We don't have to, stay in our little box.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's really neat to see that. And for those of you listening, I'll try to put a link to where you can find your local Special Olympics program and get involved in unified sports. So depending on wherever you are listening in from, but I love that how you tied that into not only get involved in Special Olympics and not only get involved in unified sports, but how that connects right into community sports. Because I'm sure Special Olympics founder Guinness World Record Holder, when the first games started in 1968, and before that when she had Camp Shriver, I'm sure she never would have imagined 55, 56 years later that people like Caleb and others will go from being involved in Special Olympics to then being accepted and included in community sports. Because back in the 60s or the late 60s, when Special Olympics and Camp Shriver was just getting started, that was just the beginning. And I'm sure Mrs. Shriver and the chairman Tim will be excited to hear of how it's the movement has now been brought into the community. Yeah. Moving. So since you talked about the vision statement, that vision or the mission statement of just a boy helping to prove abilities are greater than disabilities, that's definitely something that we highlight here on this program and this platform on Special Chronicles. Talk a little bit about the and maybe Caleb, can you talk a little bit about the racing for the 321 on World Down Syndrome Day 2024? What can you tell us, and then Karen as well, what was this race for 321 race that you took part of?
Racing for 321, yeah, that so that's an event through the National Down Syndrome Society, who we will be running for in Chicago with the marathon. And that is an awareness day. As you might or might not know, Down syndrome is the three copies of the 21st chromosome. So every March 21st, 321, our families celebrate, that it's an awareness day. Some people take cake, yellow and blue cake to school. They're in school. Some people wear funny socks. I don't know where the socks thing came from, but it's a thing. And NDSS said, we're going to be more sporty about it. We're going to do racing for 321. So it's an awareness day, but it's also a fundraising day for them. So we do that every year. We've done that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now.
Awesome.
It's a fun day, and you can invite your friends. We had a friend from the beach come run with us one time. It's just a fun day, awareness raising day.
Awesome.
What was your other question?
About the mission, but first I want to comment briefly on the funny. I've been on a Bridge Disability Business Resource Group at United Airlines, and this past year, so like in the past, I would wear crazy socks at work, but it wasn't an official part of that the company adopted. But this past year, on March 21st, our Disability Business Resource Group had encouraged employees to wear mismatched socks. Some work groups at the airport, like in the club, can't really participate and stuff like that, but they encouraged employees across so like I had one special Olympic sock and one United Airlines sock, and so that's what I did this past year. But yeah, so yeah, just thought I'd throw that in that. And I think United is going to continue that next year, but that's just a little. So for anybody, anybody is flying on March 21st in 2026, be on the lookout for employees, and if you are flying and you're a passenger, be on the lookout and for employees. Yeah, for the employees wearing crazy socks. How as we wrap up this segment about advocacy and awareness, how is Caleb raising awareness about Down syndrome through sports, and then reflect on the community? So, I don't think we tied into the mission or that vision statement, but I don't know if you want to comment anything else, because I love that, having a mission or vision statement. I guess the mission statement of Special Chronicles, giving respect and voice to people with special needs, has kind of become my vision.
Yeah, sure.
Mine that I started 17 years ago, and so it's neat that Caleb, you and your family have this vision or mission statement. Did you want to add anything else about the mission statement?
It's grown and changed over the years. We've certainly tweaked it. When he was during the pandemic, we had a more focus for Caleb on cooking. We were doing live cooking shows on his Facebook page. Remember that? Fridays at 4, Caleb and Mom, and sometimes Dad. And we thought, well, maybe he'll have his own bakery or whatever. And he does have Caleb's cookies now, so that's kind of a side job that he does.
Yeah.
Then as all the sports things came about, it started his mission, I guess, and vision turn more to sports, and how can we advocate for inclusion in sports. And so one of the things that I think is important is to be willing to put yourself out there, because when we show up at a running club, when we showed up at any of our running clubs, he was the only one with a disability that was there, that we knew of. And so it's people didn't know, how do I talk to him? How do I encourage him? How do I race alongside him? So I think we've all learned and grown together. And so that's been a very important part of this journey, is not only is Caleb learning skills from the other athletes, but he's teaching those folks about how to talk to a person with a disability, how to interact with the person with a disability. That's not, like a friend Sophia says, it's not scary, Down syndrome isn't scary. And so, it's being uncomfortable at the very beginning might be a thing, but you'll get over that. So just be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of your friend Sophia, she's also a friend of mine too. She's been on this podcast when she was in the Hunger Games movies, and I saw she's going to be a keynote speaker out in Special Olympics Colorado, and so she's doing and then a lot of great.
Yeah, she's a little bit younger than Caleb, but she's doing some amazing things as well. So
yeah. So for those of you following, you guys can go back on this podcast, specialchronicles.com, and go back to Sophia's episode and follow her on Instagram as well. Do you want? We're gonna before we move into the final two segments, we're just gonna take one quick sponsor break to let you all know that this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast is made possible by our friends at United Airlines Bridge Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities Lawnmower at specialchronicles.com/united. As we look ahead, and this is, I know we are about 59 minutes, we're about an hour into the program today. And so just that's how we get our listeners to keep listening in. But finally, and we are recording this on the 24th of September, so a couple of weeks before the Chicago Marathon. You listening or watching this episode, this podcast is going to hear this the day after, or maybe you might hear this on demand later that week or month. But I know it might be hard to talk about the Chicago Marathon in the future, but talk and let our listeners know about, and Caleb, share your thoughts as well about this, because when we reconnected at the airport, you weren't allowed to publicly talk about being a part of this Chicago Bank of America Marathon campaign with the USA Triathlon. But now, well, now you're obviously on a podcast and able to talk about it. And so I'm sure our listeners are going to see, Caleb, your face all over the city of Chicago. But can you both tell us about this exciting news of being featured on this Chicago Bank of America Marathon campaign?
Well, we, of course, had been working with the National Down Syndrome Society, trying to decide which marathon are we going to do, because we had looked at a couple other different marathons and finally settled on Chicago. And we signed up through NDSS, through their charity partnership, and submitted his story. And, there's 50,000 plus runners doing this marathon on the 12th. And we got an email the end of May saying, congratulations, we picked you and your story, one of 18 different stories to share out of the 50,000 plus runners. And we're going to fly you up. We're going to film you. We're going to give you free clothes and put you up at hotel and feed you and everything else. But so it was very exciting. A couple days. We spent a couple days up in Chicago. This was in July. And what did they do? Do you remember? They had you running back and forth. Did a lot of video of him running. We got some new clothes, right? Some new shoes. Nice. And so then, now that it's the 3 weeks away, they have released the campaign. So Caleb and the other 17 individuals are running, are featured in billboards and posters and social media segments, through the Bank of America website, through the Chicago Marathon website. And what they're trying to do is to highlight not just the runner and their story, but also the charity that they're running for. And so I think with the disability topic, there's another young man with autism who's running in support of the Special Olympics. I don't think it's Illinois. Maybe it is Illinois, Special Olympics. And then there's another gentleman running for a different Special Olympics. I can't remember that state either. But there's three under the disability category. Caleb's with Down syndrome that's doing it for the National Down Syndrome Society.
Awesome.
So that was very exciting.
Awesome.
And follow on social media, Caleb's Crew.
Awesome. Yes. So if you're just listening to the audio podcast, go check out the video on our YouTube, specialchronicles.com, and you can see going across the screen Caleb's Instagram handle, Caleb's_crew is where you can follow. Caleb and then Karen, what hopes do you have, Caleb, for the future in sports and Ed? Because
Okay, way on like to shift back to running.
Yeah, we want to do some more triathlons, of course.
and his cat. It's gotta go.
Yeah, our cat has showed up for the podcast, so we want to hi to Coco. But yeah, we haven't planned any races yet for 2026. We're still kind of looking at how things go with the marathon. I know this episode will air the day after the marathon, so hoping everything goes well. We might look at doing some other marathons in different places.
Awesome.
And and maybe trying different things. Caleb has done a Spartan race. I don't know if you know what a Spartan race.
Oh,
Spartan race is in the mud, and you're climbing over obstacles, and you're jumping over fire, and there's barbed wire, and there's ropes, and all kinds of different challenges that you do during the race. It's not just a 5K out and back. But he's done some of those, and he likes doing those, but maybe some trail running. I don't know. We'll have to, there's a lot. He's only 18, and so there's a lot of years ahead to kind of figure out where to go from here.
Awesome. How can our listeners get, because we're now 5 minutes over the hour, but how can our listeners, as we a few final bullets as we come to a close, how can our listeners get involved with Caleb's crew, social media, website, shout outs? We mentioned it earlier, but for those, because I'm sure I'm more of an audio podcast listener, and I'm sure other, my mom is one of probably the first listener to this podcast 17 years ago. And so she always listens, like when we're driving in the car or when she's at home. And so for those listening, we'll put it up on the screen if you're watching the video podcast, but we can say it for those listening just on audio. But how can the listeners get involved with Caleb's crew and follow?
Sure. So we're on, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What else? We're on Threads. I don't know if you know what Threads are, but pretty much Caleb's crew on all the platforms. And then I've got my personal account on LinkedIn, Karen Prewitt. And so, pretty much our goal is to, like you mentioned earlier, Daniel, abilities over disabilities. And our hashtag is really no limits. And just so, again, iterating that, our kids are so capable, people with disabilities are so capable. And I like to say, with opportunities and support, they can do so much. So, just continue to look for those opportunities out in the community at certain events, whatever you might be interested in, and then provide support, whether it's an organization or it's a tool. I know for deaf people, they can use a variety of different tools. For people with intellectual disabilities, there's, all the Dynabox if they can't speak correctly. There's a bunch of different tools that they can use as well. And so I think just being aware of, different helpers, and that can help you in your journey.
Awesome. Before we get to the final question, do you both have any final thoughts on your overall experience too? I know we've been following each other for a while on Instagram, but do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here on the Special Chronicles podcast?
No, I like to encourage people. Our particular platform now is more sports and health. So I think health is something that a lot of people didn't expect. Athletics, I guess, expect to see from people with IDD in particular. And so now it's growing, and people with IDD are getting involved in sports, and they're going to the gym, and they're working out and becoming healthier. And I think that's a great thing. I love that. One of the things I like best about Special Olympics is their health screenings. We do this down in Florida. Whenever you go to a Special Olympics event, there's free health screenings. And I think that's so important for our folks. So live healthily. That's my last word.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Great note. And for those of you, if you want to learn a little bit more about the health programs that Special Olympics has, the world's largest health organization for people with intellectual disabilities, specialchronicles.com/health. You can listen to. We have 2 seasons of our inclusive health series, and you guys can hear more about healthy athletes and Fit 5 and School of Strength and all of that. Specialchronicles.com/health. We got one final question because we don't just want to listen. We want our listeners to hear from both you, Kayla, and Karen, but we want our listeners more than that to take action and to bring inclusion into their communities and into their lives. And this final question will help our listeners to do that. Because as you know, the inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics, to put them to you at Special Chronicles as well. My volunteer content producer, and also my dad is a business manager, and so thankful to have a small team helping me behind the scenes. And so with that, this final question that we'll have both of you answer as we wrap up. But we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper to introduce that final question.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity. We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So, ever since I came back from the 2019 Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi, but that's this final question because it really helps our listeners to think about what and how to bring inclusion into their lives. So, for both Kayla and Karen, what does inclusion mean to you?
Okay, me too. Making friends with my dad. I gotta go.
Making friends, I think, and just being a part of the community, just like anybody else. I think it's so important to look for those opportunities to be in community with others, whether it's the disability community, whether it's the typical community, whether it's a combination of both. We love it when our school has what they call reverse inclusion days, and they have kids from a typical high school come over and spend the day with our students. And, they each learn, like I said before, they each learn from each other. There's things that everyone can teach each other. And so, be open to meeting other people who are different than you, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode, and perfect way to sum up your mission, and I'm sure our listeners can learn from your story and to bring inclusion into their communities. And if you're listening and you have a running club and you know somebody with an intellectual disability, invite them to be part of that running club. And if you're like me and not a runner, maybe I'll have to I'll have to look up that Couch to 5K, and if I do that, I'll have to maybe update all of you listening. Actually, if you guys all want to find out, if you join Special Chronicles Plus, that's our bonus content, specialchronicles.com/plus, then maybe that will be the place to update, because you have to donate to join and get access to that. So maybe that'll be the place I'll have to update people with that. Thank you, Caleb and Karen Prewitt, for taking the time on this. What day of the week is it? Wednesday? This Wednesday evening. Yes. I'll let you get back to your evening. I'm gonna go make some dinner in the other room so I can get out of this studio. But it's been a lot of fun chatting with both of you, and I hope you all listening learned a little bit from Caleb's story and Karen and how they are celebrating inclusion, how they are celebrating perseverance, and showing the world that abilities are greater than disabilities. And that's it for this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. A big thank you to Caleb Prewitt and his mom, Karen, for joining us and sharing their incredible story. Make sure to follow at Caleb's Crew on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn to keep up with their journey. And don't forget to this episode is brought to you by. Did I click it? Yeah, I think I clicked. Click this cool little graphic thing. This episode is brought to you by United Airlines Bridge Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/united. And this episode is also comes from ComEd's Energy First program, the nation's first energy and solar efficiency education program designed and taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. You can find today's show notes and access over 17 years, over 800 podcast episodes at specialchronicles.com/pod. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. We haven't had any new reviews and 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts, but please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Until next time, we remember the message that Caleb and Karen live by, their mission of the mission of Caleb's Crew. Abilities are greater than disabilities. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned, because at the end of October, we're going to have the United Airlines Chief Customer Officer we're taping a live podcast, and so stay tuned. If you're listening, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, and I hope I hope I don't get in trouble
in trouble, Daniel.
But I will.
Okay.
I've kind of already put it up on the website, but specialchronicles.com/live plus if you want early access. If you go to specialchronicles.com, assuming if you don't see it, I was told to take it down. But for now, for those listening, just keep following the Special Chronicles podcast, because you do not want to miss that exciting episode at the end of October 2025. Where I sit down with an executive vice president at United Airlines in front of a live audience of employees. So, thank you again, Caleb and Karen, for coming on the Special Chronicles podcast.
I appreciate it.
And thanks all for tuning in. We'll see you next week right here on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Daniel Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.